रहीम तमाम व्यूअर्स को पैगाम सिंध की तरफ से अस्सलाम वालेकुम। दोस्तों, इस वीडियो में हम जो है जीके के जो मोस्ट रिपीटेड क्वेश्चंस हैं वो रिपीट करेंगे और हम अभी पढ़ेंगे फर्स्ट इन द वर्ल्ड। तो चलें हम स्टार्ट करते हैं। द फर्स्ट पर्सन्स टू रीच माउंट एवरेस्ट वर नेम वाज शेरपा टेंजिंग एंड एडमंड हेनरी। माउंट एवरेस्ट पे पहले पहुंचने वाले लोग ये थे। उसके बाद नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है, द फर्स्ट पर्सन टू रीच नॉर्थ पोल। नॉर्थ पोल पर पहला पहुंचने वाला शख्स जो था वो था रॉबर्ट पेरी। नेक्स्ट, साउथ पोल पे पहुंचने वाला जो पहला शख्स था वो था एमंडसीन। नेक्स्ट, पहला जो बुक प्रिंट करवाने वाला कंट्री था वो था चाइना। नेक्स्ट, और पहली पेपर करेंसी इशू करने वाला जो मुल्क था वो था चाइना। सबसे पहले जो कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जामिनेशन एंड सिविल सर्विसेज शुरू करने वाला जो मुल्क था वो भी चाइना था। अमेरिका का पहला प्रेसिडेंट जॉर्ज वाशिंगटन था। ब्रिटेन का पहला प्राइम मिनिस्टर रॉबर्ट वालपोल था। द फर्स्ट गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ यूनाइटेड नेशंस वाज त्रिगिविली फ्रॉम नॉर्वे। द फर्स्ट कंट्री टू प्रिपेयर अ कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन वाज USA। द फर्स्ट गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ पाकिस्तान वाज मोहम्मद अली जिन्ना। The first country to host NAM Summit, Non-Aligned Movement Summit, was Belgrade, Yugoslavia. The first European to attack India was Alexander the Great. और the first European to reach China. China पहुँचने वाला पहला यूरोपियन जो था वो था मार्को पोलो। और उसके बाद the first person to fly aeroplane was Wright brothers ने पहला एरोप्लेन फ्लाई किया था। The first person to sail around the world was Magellan. The first country to send men to the moon was USA. The first country launched artificial satellite in space was Russia. The first country to host the modern Olympics was Greece. The first human in space was Yuri Gagarin from Russia. The first city on which the atom bomb was dropped was Hiroshima, Japan. The first person to land on the moon was Neil Armstrong, followed by Edwin E. Aldrin. Next, the first shuttle to go in space was Columbia. The first spacecraft to reach on Mars was Viking 1. The first woman Prime Minister of England was Margaret Thatcher. The first female Prime Minister of a country was Benazir Bhutto from Pakistan. The first woman to climb Mount Everest was Mrs. Jong Tibai from Japan. The first woman to cosmonaut the world was Valentina Tereshkova from Russia. The first woman president of UN General Assembly was Vijaya Lakshmi Pandit. The first batsman to score 3 centuries in 3 successive tests on debut was Muhammad Azharuddin. The first US president to resign presidency was Richard Nixon. The first Chinese traveler to India was Pi Hin. The first person in the space was Yuri Gagarin. The first person on the moon was Neil Armstrong. और ये हम डिस्कस कर चुके हैं दोस्तों। तो उसके बाद नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन है, first man to walk in the space was Alexei Leonov. The first woman prime minister of a country was Mrs. Sraimova Bandaranaike. The first woman president of a country was Maria Estela Perón. The first woman to climb a space mission colonel was Elian Collins from USA. The first talkie movie in the world was Jazz Singer 1927 में मूवी रिलीज हुई थी। The first residents of International Space Station was Bill Shepard, Yuri Gudzenko and Sergei Kirkiliev from Russia. The first blind man to scale Mount Everest was Eric Van Meer from USA. The first Muslim woman to become Secretary General of Amnesty International was Ian Zubeda Khan. Next question. The first space astronaut to go into space 7 times till date is Jerry Ross. The first South African to become the second space tourist was Mark Shuttleworth. The first woman Prime Minister of South Korea was Miss Chang Sang. The first youngest grandmaster of the world in chess, Sergei Karjakin, Ukraine, the first adventure flying successfully across the England Channel without aircraft was Felix Baumgartner, July 2003. China is the first man in the space was Yang Liu. The first Muslim woman to receive Nobel Prize was Shirin Ebadi, Nobel Prize in 2003. Next question. The woman with the highest individual test score in the making new world record was Kim Banoch, and the first woman to climb Mount Everest 4 times was Lakpa Sherpa Nepali. The first Asian city to host Olympics was Tokyo, Japan. First women tennis player win single title in Wimbledon was A. Gibson. The first woman to win a Grand Slam was Maureen Catherine. The first woman to win an Olympic gold medal was Charlotte Cooper, USA tennis singles. The first man to fly solo non-stop across the Atlantic was Charles Lindbergh. Next question. The first person to cross the Atlantic and Antarctic Circle was James Cook. The first person to reach North Pole was Lieutenant Colonel Joseph O. Fletcher and Lieutenant William P. The first person to conquer Mount Everest twice was Navan Gomok Sherpa. The first person with the only arm to climb Everest was American Gary Goulet. First woman to fly solo around the world was Jerry Fred Ritz was. The first woman to fly solo across the English Channel was Harriet Quigley. Next question. The first ascent of Mount Everest bottled oxygen is Peter Hebler, Australia, and Reinhold Messer. The first woman to set foot on North Pole and Bearer, USA, jointly developed by Sony and Philips. The first atom bomb, Little Boy, dropped over Hiroshima by the USA was Second World War. First manned space vehicle was Vostok 1 USSR. The first man to walk on the moon was Neil Armstrong. He was in Apollo ship 1969. तो ये थे हमारे जीके के क्वेश्चन फर्स्ट इन द वर्ल्ड. हम नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन में फर्स्ट इन पाकिस्तान पढ़ेंगे, फर्स्ट वुमेन इन पाकिस्तान पढ़ेंगे, फर्स्ट इन इस्लाम पढ़ेंगे, फर्स्ट वुमेन इन इस्लाम पढ़ेंगे और फर्स्ट वुमेन इन द वर्ल्ड पढ़ेंगे. तो हमारे साथ रहिए, देखते रहिए पैगाम सिंध. अपना बहुत ख्याल रखिएगा. अल्लाह हाफिज़.